Thank you all for being here this morning. It's wonderful to see everybody to practice with you. It's a little bit of a surprise. I wasn't sure if I was going to be coming this week, and I thought maybe not, because we've had a lot of illnesses in my household. But some of you may know Yogi Roberts, who is a student of Nonan, a disciple of Nonan. I've trained with him many, many years and practiced here for a long time, and she's not doing so well. In fact, if I understand correctly, she is in hospice now, so I wanted to make sure to come out and see her at this time. There's a part of me that regrets when Nonan passed away. Those of you who know Nonan, I had the chance to see him one time when I came to Nebraska to the Zen Center. I had a chance to see him, and I thought, oh, I'll see him next time. Well, there wasn't a next time. So you never know. You never know when, if you have a chance if you want to say something, don't wait.
Daishin, can I just add that It's because of Yogi Roberts that we have this building.
Yes.
She had stock in Enron. She's worked for Enron. This is before Enron had all of its issues, and she put up all of the financing and all of the money for this. So we owe her a debt of gratitude.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. This whole building, we're here because of her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She used a lot of her personal money to acquire this property and to fix it up. It wasn't in good shape when they first purchased it. So what I'd like to share with you this morning is a Chinese saying. It's the Chinese saying is something that I've been practicing as far as calligraphy goes, and I'll show you in a little bit the calligraphy I've been working on about the past 3 weeks or so. The saying is, dragons roar and herons whoop. That's the saying. And I need a lot of instruction to figure out, well, what the heck does that mean? Now, there's got to be something more there. You see these Chinese characters and you practice them, but you want to know what they mean. And when you look at the literal meaning, it doesn't tell you actually very much. What does it mean? Dragons roar and cranes whoop. I don't know, does anybody have any guesses?
Well, direct no.
Does it have to do with like the dragon's roar and the snake's tail, or like you start off strong and then?
Oh, no, it's different.
Like that?
Yeah, it's different. That's a good guess.
In what context?
Right, yeah, what's the context? So that's what we'll explore a little bit. Okay, and I will share, did you want to share something?
Well, I have a martial arts background, so dragon, fire, aggression, and a crane is softer, more supple, more pliant.
I think this is
you got a yin and yang thing going on.
Yeah, that's a direction this is going into a little bit. Yeah, that's good, thank you. What I'd like to direct us towards in this talk is the precepts, and specifically the three, what we call the three pure precepts. Do all that is good, or actually do nothing that is bad, do everything that is good, and purify the mind. Now, some of you have been studying the precepts formally, and you know that there's lots of nuances to the precepts. They're not as black and white as they might initially sound to us. That's another Dharma talk. But basically, I think this is about those three pure precepts and the precepts in general. It's about going from philosophizing about something to action, to doing something. So here is the general introduction. Here's the general introduction to this. I'll give a general introduction and then we'll get into it a little bit more. people come with various religious beliefs. People have various religious beliefs. Some believe in heaven and hell. Some believe in reincarnation. Some people believe in God. Some people believe in many gods. Some people believe in no gods. And then there's the Buddhist beliefs, right? Sometimes it incorporates ideas of reincarnation. What are we doing here? Are we worshiping the Buddha? Sometimes people wonder when I share my practice and identify as a Buddhist, people have wonder. The first thing is, well, what is that? What do you believe in? That's a question that often comes for people. Oh, do you believe in the Buddha? Do you practice meditation? If so, how much? Is there a requirement? These are all religious ideas, beliefs, and they're not very helpful to any of us, for the most part. They might be for some people to get us oriented initially, but unless we have a real earnest desire to end suffering, they're not real helpful. And the Buddha, he didn't answer questions around philosophy. He wasn't concerned with what somebody believed was going to happen to the world. Was it going to last forever? Is it finite? Is it infinite? Is it both? These kinds of philosophical questions. His teaching was that there is suffering and there's an end to suffering, and there's things that we can do to end it. Simple, real simple. And this is not to say that we shouldn't have a variety of beliefs, a variety of religions, a variety of cultures and ideas. I think all of that is very important. But it's not enough. It's not enough. So that is my general introduction. Now let's look at this. Dragons roar and cranes whoop. What is the symbol of the dragon? You mentioned a little bit that the dragon is very powerful. The dragon is symbolic of right speech in some cases. We have images of dragons in our lore, whether it's coming from the West or the East. We have dragons. Think about Harry Potter. That's my last image of a dragon. And we have in the Asian culture, you have images of sages riding dragons. You have images in the West of knights fighting dragons. So the dragon is this mythological beast or creature that is imbued with some kind of mystical power in some way. In Zen, he or she is the symbol of enlightenment, or a kind of force of nature. If you want to get out of the literal idea of a dragon, the force of nature, that which is uncontrollable, that which lies at the center of black holes, this energy, this kind of an enigma of life that we get sucked into death. We're alive and then we're gone. What is that? That's the dragon. That's the dragon at play. Or just the simple fact that we change over our lifetime. Somehow we started out as a little dot, smaller than a period at the end of a sentence. Isn't that interesting? We think we're big size now. We started out as little dots, smaller than a period at the end of a sentence. And now we're grown-ups. We call ourselves grown up. Something happened there in between, right? That mysteriousness could be that power of the dragon in us. at work, at play. The other image of the dragon in Zen is that when you go to a training temple, training monastery, when a monk enters a training monastery, they start out as fish. If you look at a fish, they have the scale skin, and a dragon is similar, it has scales on it. But when the fish enters the gate of so the fish is symbolic of the new monk, of the newly ordained monk going for training. And when they enter the training gate, they transform into a dragon. Something shifts there, something changes. It unleashes something. It's always, the dragon is always there in us. It's always there. And then something happens. Maybe a teacher says something, boom, and you have a experience of, wait a minute, I'm much more than what I thought I was. Or the other thing may happen, oh, I thought I knew it all, and now I realize I'm really tiny in the midst of everything. Right? Everybody's different. And what the dragon looks like is there's no form. Dogen refers to the dragon a couple of times when he gives instructions for Zazen. One place he says, do not doubt the true dragon. Do not doubt the true dragon. The true dragon for Dogen in his instructions is Zazen. Zazen is the true dragon. It's like, when you can read about meditation. My teacher said, I read pretty Zen books for 10 or 15 years before I actually came to meditate. She was embarrassed to say that. She said, I read D.T. So this was in the 1960s. She said, I read D.T. Suzuki. That's because that was what was available. And there were no Zen teachers around her in Texas where she went to college. It wasn't until, and even after being in Japan for a number of years, she never came across a Zen teacher for a number of years until she met somebody that introduced her. And then she started to practice Zen. For me, I saw an image of a Buddha on the cover of a book called Siddhartha. Anybody here read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse? There was a recent neat article about Hermann Hesse in one of the Buddhist magazines about how he had all kinds of problems. He could write great tales about the Buddha and about Buddhism, but his life was a mess. He was an alcoholic, and the way he lived betrayed everything. He wasn't able to actually do the practice from what this article seemed to have. Yet, his writing inspired a lot of people, including myself. And I saw this image of a Buddha on this cover. This was when I was in 11th grade. It was in an English class. We were studying this. And it wasn't for another 4 years, after even studying Buddhism and other religions in college, that I met my teacher, and she showed us the first thing was how to do Zazen. And I sat there and I'm thinking, oh, I didn't realize you could actually sit like this. I saw the image of the Buddha, and I didn't, we see these images of Buddha like on the altar around the temple. It's actually something we can do, we can practice. And I go, I can put my hands in this cosmic mudra and sit upright, and I didn't realize I have the potential to, we each have a steel rod in our back, right? Sometimes it might feel like a cracker. It's gonna just, but we each have a steel rod in our back. That's what the Buddha's showing. We've been through all kinds of turmoil. We've been through supernovas. We have a tremendous amount of power in us. Tremendous. We've been through a lot, all of us, each of us. So Dogen refers to Zazen as this true dragon. He says, do not doubt the true dragon. Right? When you sit in Zazen, it may not be so comfortable. You might not like it. It might not fit with your idea of what meditation is supposed to be like. I'm supposed to feel good. I'm supposed to have some wonderful experience. You might get there and be like, whoa, this is not what I had thought this was. I didn't sign up to be uncomfortable. Well, welcome. This is the true dragon. Actually, the true dragon can be terrifying at times. And yet, our practice is to stay with that experience. What are we experiencing? What are we experiencing? Stay with it. And we need each other to do that. We need each other. We can't do this all by ourselves. I mean, maybe sometimes we have to, but it's not meant to be done by ourselves. We need the support of others, the loving, the kindness, the support of each other in doing this. I can't do this all by myself. Right from the start. Even if you don't have a teacher, you start out, you read a book or something, somebody puts something out there for us to latch onto. And then, of course, the life of the Buddha gives us some ideas too, as well as the lives of other sages, whether they're Buddhist or Christian or Muslim or atheist, whatever. If they say truth is truth. The other image that Dogen gives of the dragon is one that the dragon, he says, the dragon enters the water. He says that in Zazen, it's like a dragon entering the water. The dragon entering the water is, and this is something I'm indebted to Nonan for sharing, the dragon entering the water is the home of the dragon. The water is the home of the dragon. That's where dragons are said to reside. They're at home in water. We're at home. Zazen is our home, right? Because we're always here. When we really enter Zazen, enter fully into this body-mind, we come home. We come home not just to our physical body, but to all of the ancestors that have preceded us. We carry them with us. Whatever their trouble and turmoil was, we take it with us. All of the ancestors. We're like the snail that has no worries because it carries its home on its back. Okay. Now, this phrase, the dragon's roar and the crane's whoop, is different from these images of the dragon that I've just presented you. In this phrase, and I want to show you what it looks like in Chinese characters. So I've been practicing this in a couple of different ways. The first one is their normal black, the black kanji written in sumi ink. Right? It's like that. And the second one, I experimented a little bit. I wanted to have some fun. So I put some colors in there with the watercolor.
It's the first time I've seen anybody do that.
Yeah, there's others. Yeah,
It's just commonly it's usually black.
Usually it's black. But I've seen others do it, and I like to experiment every once in a while. And this is notice the contrast here. You know, it's kind of fun to see a little contrast and experiment with a little bit. Right? See the contrast there. Yeah. The dragon's roaring, the crane's whoop is not what we think it is in terms of these Zen sayings that I just mentioned. Just put these out here for you to enjoy. Rather, it is more, the dragon's roar is kind of like the loud mouth. The person with the loud mouth. and the crane's whoop is kind of like the more refined speech. And it's referring to like a kind of cacophony of opinions that emerge. Religious beliefs can be seen, if you just look at them kind of surface level, all of these religious beliefs that I presented to us, God, no God, multiple gods, heaven, hell, reincarnation, all of these different things. They're a kind of a cacophony of voices sounding out. And especially in our time where we have the intersection of all kinds of ideas, philosophies, religions, all at our fingertip. This is unprecedented for humanity, because for most of humanity, we stayed in fairly closed cultures that didn't have I mean, there may have been some influence, there certainly was influence from other cultures, but not at the rate that it comes to us in modern times, 2024. We can project ourselves onto the other side of the globe in an instant. So we're in this phrase was made probably 2,000 years ago. But it's just as relevant for us today, and maybe even more so when we start to really think about it. These different opinions, perspectives on things. Some are really loud and try to grab your attention and say, this is it, this is the thing you got to pay attention to. And some people love that the lack of refinement in that. And then there's the other voices that are more refined, more calm, more cool, and other people, maybe the more educated, be like, oh yeah, that makes more sense to me. But in either case, we've got, and this is not the dragon and the crane are not just referring to two particular opinions, but the multitude of opinions and perspectives that are out there. And the question that often arises for people is, which one is the right one? But as I'm trying to share here, that's the wrong question to actually be asking. Which one is right? That's the wrong question. And of course, I've been talking about this with regards to religious beliefs, but this could be a lot of different spheres that overlap. So maybe you can think of what are the other spheres that might have these multiple opinions in them. Name a few.
Politics.
Yeah, you named one. That's right. Politics is certainly one. Different guys.
Social media is definitely an outlet.
Thank you. Yeah, social media. Woo! That's the one I was going to. Yeah, politics is definitely one. We go, blah, 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 which one?
Parenting.
Parenting. Oh, man. Yeah, parenting. You look, one book says, oh, do this, and it's going to do it for you. The other book says, do that, and it's going to do it for you. I'm ready to throw them all away.
Interpersonal dynamics.
What is it?
Interpersonal dynamics.
Interpersonal dynamics, yeah. Yeah, or even the voice in our head, right? We might have multiple different thoughts going on, and we can get carried away. And that's part of the reason why we come to practice, I think, for a lot of people. I want to go, social media is a huge one. It just, right? How many of us do this? And you see this one, and then that one, and then that one, and that one. And which one is going to get the most attention, right? So there's all of these voices. The question is, what do we do? Well, luckily there is the second half of this phrase. It's so interesting to me when I practice these calligraphies. Oftentimes, they're lacking context. They're lacking the context. They don't have, actually, all of the time, they're lacking in context. And this is the first half of a wider phrase. The second half of the phrase is, nothing is more enjoyable than doing good. Nothing is more enjoyable than doing good. We each need to dig inside of ourselves and figure out what it is that we need to do to bring some good into this world. We can listen to other voices and stuff, and sometimes they can be helpful, but sometimes they can just be overwhelming. So each of us has the responsibility of figuring what out what that looks like for our own lives. What does it mean to do good? Right? These three pure precepts. Do nothing that is bad, do everything that's good, purify the mind. And we can add in there all of the other precepts as well. We continue to think about, well, how do we practice this? Again, this is maybe a subject that we can go deeper in at another time, but I just want to point us in the direction of, yeah, there's going to be multiple opinions out there of what to do. And then there's the precepts as a guide. What do we really need to do? And each of us knows. We have an intuitive sense of that. Zazen can help us. Right? We're not looking at somebody. In Zazen, somebody's not telling us what to do. We're sitting still. And what to do emerges. It emerges from each of you. Each of you knows what to do. When I was studying in college world religions, and I was getting caught up in all kinds of different belief systems and studying philosophy as well. And my own ideas about God completely, they got obliterated by the study, using my brain to think about this stuff. And then I met my teacher, and she didn't say anything about beliefs. She said, just sit here. I just said, put your palm, right hand as the base, the left hand goes over top, the thumb tips slightly touch. Right, straighten up your back, tuck your chin, soft focus, eyes lowered. And I felt better. That was for me, that's the foundation of doing good. It's an activity. Zazen is an activity. And whatever we do, we first find our strength, we find our power, we find some serenity, and then from there we'll know what to do. When I went to practice, so it took me a few years before I actually started to practice in the same space as my teacher regularly. I lived with her for many years, but the first 3 months that I was there was a real learning experience. When I wake up my son to go to school, and actually usually my wife does that because he doesn't like me in the morning. He wants me to, he wants his mommy. But I make it a point, it doesn't matter. He's one of the kids, he's really bright with math. He knows his numbers. He's only in first grade, but he can write full sentences. His writing, his ability to write is good. He's able to make these wonderful sentences. He's doing quite well in school. There's nothing to worry about there. But he doesn't, and now I'm realizing we have to teach him how to fix his bed. This is part of this is part of his education. I was really, after I had practiced with my teacher for a little bit, I went to a university, to graduate school, to study more religion. And when I got there, I realized I don't even know how to cook. Here I am studying all this really high philosophy and learning how, I could write a decent paper, but I couldn't even cook for myself. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to I could fix my bed. That was something that my mother taught. But all of these like basic things of life, this is also education. So I share this because one of the things that I learned from my teacher was how to wash the dishes. Now, of course, I had the job of washing the dishes some of the time before I went to college. So I kind of knew what to do, but I didn't really take it very seriously, and I thought of it as something I thought of it as something that I could weasel out of. Wasn't fun. And in college, none of my roommates really desired to wash the dishes, so we'd have them piled up and smelling, and that's how we lived. So when I went to the temple to train with my teacher, she said, okay, now we wash our dishes. And we were at the sink, I'll never forget it, in her mother's apartment, because before it was an entire Zen center, her mother was living there. And we would eat with her mother. And then my job was to wash the dishes. And she'd see me washing the dishes. And I had this attitude of, all right, I gotta wash the dishes. She said, you're not washing the dishes right. When you're washing anything, you're washing your own heart. Look at it in that way. You're washing your own heart when you're washing the dishes. And so I took that dish, I was like, wow, that's my heart there? My heart is outside of myself as well as right in here? Oh, I can do something, This isn't somebody else's dish. This isn't my teacher's mother's dish. This is my own. Oh, okay, let me wipe it up, clean it up, and put it away. And we bring that attitude to whatever we're doing, washing the windows, fixing our bed, right? This is all of these external things. That's all Zen practices. People come, sometimes they want to know they feel some kind of shame because they can't meditate regularly. That's not Zen practice. Zen practice means you clean up after yourself. And if you're good at that, then get your kids to do it. I haven't graduated from this practice, let me tell you. My wife will remind me, as well as my son. I have good teachers there. That's our practice. Clean up after yourself. What messes have you left? And I don't mean just literally. Yeah, I mean literally. I definitely mean literally. But there's also psychological messes that we've left. There's interpersonal messes that we've left. Clean them up. Do what you need to do to clean up. And it's not easy. I mean, hey, we are failures in many ways at this. That's what our practice is. That's what Zen practice is. So if you go away with that, forget about meditation. Do meditation. Don't stop doing meditation. But the heart of the practice is cleaning up after ourselves, not leaving any trace. That's it. So I went back to my family after 3 months of training, and in my family my parents were very warm, very loving people. They cared a lot. They cared a lot about me. They cared a lot about their life in general, and they pushed me. They encouraged me to do stuff that I didn't want to do. Right? That's how I became a competitive swimmer. I wanted to quit several times. My mother was like, no, get back in the pool. Even though my lips were blue and I was shivering there, get back in the pool. And I didn't like it at the time, but I appreciate the push now. My father too, he would push me to go into, you don't understand something, I'll help you out with it. Especially with regards to anything related to science or math. He was a genius at that stuff. On the other hand, there was this rhythm that they got into every time we sat down to have a meal, where it was like they would always argue. They would always have something to fight about with each other. And it just made the meal very stressful. It was like a bad song that would be on repeat. every day around the mealtime. And when I came home, we had dinner together, and it was, there was that song playing again. And I had this opportunity now. I'd been training with my teacher just 3 months, and I had this opportunity. Okay, what did my teacher say? Oh yeah, anytime you see something out there that is not right, you've got 3 fingers pointing backwards, and look at how you're partly responsible for the situation that you're in right now. Again, this is our real practice. When we see something wrong out there, see where we're responsible, what we can change in ourselves. So I thought, okay, wait a minute, let me try this out. This is what I've been doing. It became a habit, so I didn't have to think about it too much. And this is the thing, we gotta make this a habit. Do all that is good, do nothing that is bad, purify the mind, look at yourself. Well, all the dishes are still out on the table and we're finished eating. What if I collected the dishes and brought them to the sink and started washing them? Boom. Something shifted. I took those dishes away. It wasn't something that I would naturally do, but after 3 months of practice, I started to do that. And my parents, lo and behold, they stopped arguing. There was nothing feeding it. There was nothing feeding their argument anymore. And my mother even said, oh, thank God for your teacher. So just as an invitation for you all now, maybe to share, if you feel like it, how do you get caught? How do you get caught in this either whether it's your own mental chatter or the chatter that's in our environment? How do you get caught? What is your addiction? So I think there's a connection here between addictive tendencies, wanting to alleviate our suffering through something short term, which is it's an attempt to adapt to a hard situation. It's not to shame anybody, but we all have these addictions. Like my parents started arguing, my addiction is I'd love to just smoke a joint. Right? I love to drink a 6-pack, right? So those are viable ways. They don't work for the long term, but for the short term, they get us out of a feeling of discord. So what are the ways? What are the ways that you get caught? What kind of arguments do you get attracted to that you wish was different, that you like to complain about? I want to pause right here and just give you an opportunity to think about that for a few moments. Just take a pause here, maybe for a minute or so, and see what comes up for you. And then maybe share that with a person next to you, somebody, 1 or 2 people sitting next to you, if you feel like doing that.
What arguments are we addicted to, or what?
All right, yeah. How does this stuff? I've given some examples of how that's played out a little bit in my life, and kind of how I use the practice to work with it. So I'm curious. I'll just give you guys an opportunity to share, and online too. Maybe think about it for a second.
I can share.
Well, hold that, and I just want to get people maybe talking amongst each other first, and then share with the bigger Sangha. If you have something, you could go ahead and just turn to the person next to you and feel comfortable talking.
Or they say greet the person next to you, and I don't want to.
I'm addicted to thoughts.
What a stranger.
Wish I could but I'm more able to see when it's happening, like in real time, and then like switch back into my body. And among other things, but yeah.
Oh, I see.
What's that? Yeah, which has to myself that it's difficult to like overgeneralize a million relationships, mostly my word. And then I can start seeing the patterns.
But somehow she'll
Totally, yeah. No, I think that's really important to see because like,
it's good to see you.
I don't know. Like,
You gotta recognize
my kids, like, I don't know.
And that in and of
He's
itself
like
is
really really smart, you know. I would just rather have my kids see themselves as emotionally intelligent rather than, you know, there's gonna be someone smarter than you. And if you like do poorly on a test, then your like whole identity is like kind of crushed, you know, and
So I typically want to fight or flight.
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't read it personally.
I have a lot of social triggers, so people, I'm really sensitive to sound and I tend to take in everything. So I can get over my crazy. So I'm like, okay, these people are too loud, I gotta leave, you know. And so for me, the practice is just, number one, just being able to recognize. And that's taken me a long time, and I still don't always. A lot of times I still take it for just that awareness right there. I mean, that's a lot of times it's still
You know, like an IQ score,
but it's just being aware of it.
skills and how
Rather than just
you're
being
able
like
to
an
negotiate like your own emotional life and emotions with each other.
At least now. Now I'm trying to like slowly like
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I was actually visiting my mom this past weekend. She did around I came home over and I was like, you know what? This macaroni
you kind of
never
draw.
able to sleep, you know. Like one of those people who pretends that likes to pretend that nothing happens, you know. So we just
See, so here's the
fun going back to
thing.
it is funny though, occasionally, no matter how old you get, and I'm like 30 years old,
I leave them in my bag.
Okay, about 1 minute.
I've gotten better at it. But that right there is like, I'm in the car, okay, I'm going to the store, there's gonna be people in there, there's gonna be a lot of grab your place. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget, but I used to never,
I don't
so
know,
at least
like it just makes me really irritable, like what does that mean to you, that you see it?
and I started I see myself as a friend, it's a red light. I have a friend of mine who describes it
Oh,
as
right.
an old feeling circulating through his head. Right? Yeah. Like here it is. Oh.
Okay. I don't know, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I can write it down to you. I was just moving back. I think she said that to me before I even got sober 12 years ago. I was like, yes, that's exactly. And it just keeps happening.
All right, let's bring it back into the big group. So feel free if anybody wants to share what they heard or feel comfortable sharing. Maybe just one or two people.
Well, so like I'm an aversive type person. I have an aversive type personality. So I there's a lot of things in the social environment that can trigger me. I'm very sensitive to sound is like my number one thing. So as I was sharing with my neighbor here, that like when I go out into the public, a lot of times, like if I go into the bookstore and there's a lot of people and you just hear this cacophony, use that word, I love that word, you used that earlier, of sounds, and I feel like I'm being barraged sometimes with these things. So my immediate response is to get out, is to remove myself. And so I guess the first line of defense in that is just being aware of it when it happens, and that's taken me a long time, and I don't always do it. Sometimes I still get caught up in the feeling before I realize that I'm being triggered and being overwhelmed. So that's really like my main, what I try and put my energy at is just being aware of when it happens, so that I can, because I can't work with it unless I know it's happening first, right? And so But even like simple practical things like earplugs, bringing those with me if I want to try to maybe extend my boundary a little bit and work with it more. But it's the because I'm at an age now where like staying and fighting and muscling through, I just don't have the patience or the energy for it anymore. It's just too draining, you know. So that removing myself is kind of my go-to. But I mean, you know, if you remove yourself constantly, you're never going to interact with your world. So
yeah. How about over here on this side? Yeah.
So I guess what I shared was my relationship with my father. So each one of us sees the other one the way we were and not necessarily the way we are. So he still sees me as his little girl. I still see him as this perfect person who can fix everything, which is of course not true. And recently, because of illnesses and things like that, I've had to see him for who he is and meet him where he is. And because of that, I am not triggered like I'm 16 and just missed my curfew. And I was able to take situations that would normally be very inflammatory and very distressful. And even though they were very upsetting, don't misunderstand, I was able to handle them with more skill and grace and not harm the relationship because we were able to meet each other where we are now.
Very nice, very nice. What I hear you guys saying is there something needs to shift where we when we get overwhelmed, we may feel a sense of weakness, and it requires us to muster some strength to get ourselves through that. I think that's what this particular statement is about, right? That we each have within us a certain power, energy, strength that sometimes gets untapped, and not to get swept away by the current of opinions and voices. So I'll just close then. If you'd like to share more outside of the talk, you're welcome. But I'm going to close here with a poem. Dragons roar, cranes whoop, politicians power hungry, hungry ghosts, there's never enough. See through the sea foam. Don't get caught by waves of opinions. The great ocean is always there. Enter the water like the true dragon. Practice doing all that is good. Even a 6-year-old knows it, but a 60-year-old can't do it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, let's just do it.